love people, and it's one reason I do what I do, whether it's helping them publish their book, get their message out, have this show. I get to talk to people, and I've always had a heart for them. And helping successful people share their knowledge with other people who are striving to be in that position. And it's always been curious to me when, let's go back to middle school, high school. It's like, oh, Johnny did this, Sally did that. And it's like, well, one of them was like revered and the other one was vilified. And I was like, this is kind of weird because they both did the same thing. And even more so in business. And people's reactions and how you treat them in the workplace. First off, always treat them nice, even if they are stupid and don't deserve it. Like, you should always have grace. And, you're not perfect either. But it's always been interesting to me when you have these organizations that are like, you're fired, but you're promoted. It's like, bro, we did the same thing. And that's why I'm excited to have John Robertson on the show today. He is the founder of Fort Log Services and the author of Run Towards the Roar. And he helps people understand these situations better. And he's going to help you right after we thank our sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, John Robertson. John, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great, and I watched some of the preface, and I'm thinking, wow, there's some neat stories here. So I'm looking forward to contributing to your listeners. This is awesome. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you share your experience, because there's something I've noticed multiple times with you now, and I didn't even bring it up in the pre-chat, but just how how you treat situations that could be when bad situations arise. I see how you handle them, and I appreciate the compliment you paid me about how I handle things. But at the same token, there's things I've noticed about you, and this is what you do, is help people in the workplace go understand these situations and do better with it, right?
Absolutely. And part of what you put your finger on is there's cliches and quotes that people share, but living it is a very different discussion.
Ooh, tell me
In
more.
in 5 years, what is going to matter? Mario, before the show, you and I were chatting about 2 men that we both honored and who are gone now. But what was it about them that we honored? Probably wasn't the letters after their name or their title, but it was the what's inside thing, who they were.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
And that's a great point you make up about the letters and the name and everything. And I was actually just saying the other day, it's like, actually yesterday, attracting people to you in business. Everyone wants more business. It's like, well, have you ever heard anyone go, well, I have all these stupid clients? It's like, well, why are you letting stupid clients into your organization? Like, why are you it's your company. You're the one who consented. And why is that the only person you're attracting?
And if I don't know what's important to me, I can get caught dealing with those customers. And the reason is, somewhere along the line, and this is a crisis theme, somewhere along the line, people have created this illusion that busy is a badge of honor.
Why do you think that is?
Busy must mean important. If you want to have fun with people's heads, and I like starting
the time.
So when they ask you, so are you busy? Respond to them and say, no. Don't explain it. Don't justify it. Don't say anything further. Just say no. And 9 times out of 10, they will do that. What? Is everything okay? Your problem? Yeah, no, just not busy. Well, is the business okay? Yeah, the business is fine. Well, does that not concern you that you're not busy? And what I do is, after a period of time, I will say, my schedule is full, but busy is determined by other people's priorities. full schedule is determined by mine. No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not busy.
Hashtag asterisk gold nugget that.
Well, and I mean,
Wow.
like think about those two men that you and I were chatting about. They were never so busy that they didn't do what was important.
I'm thinking of an example right now that blew my mind. Still sticks with me.
And and that's that hot water teabag moment, Mario, because that's the stuff that leaks out in hot water.
For everyone that just joined us, please give them that analogy again because that was powerful as well.
If we ever want
What
to
is the hot water teabag analogy?
if you ever want to find out what's important to a person or an organization, this is reframing crisis or change. Watch what happens when they're in hot water. Because just like a tea bag, what's inside always leaks out when we are in hot water.
So, do you think this is one reason managers, CEOs, business people take people to lunch or dinner outside of the office?
Uh, Sorry, lunch or dinner outside the office. I missed the.
So, for your teabag analogy, for what
Yeah.
leaks out, I was asking, do you think this is why CEOs, business leaders, managers, whoever take people, oh, let's go to lunch
Okay.
or dinner,
Yes,
whatever the scenario, breakfast, outside of the office to see
I
how
would
they are in
say
that environment?
yes, partly. But the other part is it removes the title position
Mm,
professional image, whatever I'm supposed to call that, game
the
face stuff,
hierarchy.
the hierarchy. And it puts like if I and because I happen to take a guess at your descent and just based on your last name, there might be a little Italian in it. But if I'm sitting down with you eating spaghetti and I'm doing one of two things, I'm doing the and the piece goes back and forth up and down my face, or I grab my knife and fork and cut my spaghetti. There's there's all kinds of ways that that gets interpreted because we get to know the real person. You know, if I
Interesting.
talk with my mouth full.
You know how we get around that?
No, but I figured I might open a can of worms on this one.
That's why we talk with our hands instead.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to make a crack about why does it have to be spaghetti? I was going to say why not Alfredo or something, but I, I
Because
I'm I get
spaghetti
I get your
flips
point.
better.
Ah, okay,
Huh.
nice. The the other thing is take a spoon and put it in the fork in the spoon and twirl it.
My wife does her spaghetti that way. I don't.
No,
No, I do the knife and fork. And we went out for with somebody for dinner one night, and they did the and the and it was so bad that we shortened up our dinner. Said, yeah, this was
no
really nice,
kidding.
but holy smokes, look what time it is. We gotta go. Oh, it was disgusting.
How well did you know them?
Quite well. But we'd never been out to
Mm-hmm.
dinner. It was, the social kinds of things. We got together, we had a card game, but all of a
So it
sudden
was the very first time.
yep.
Okay. So I got to ask you this because you and my sister would have a good conversation. So where was it? Mother's Day and recently we went out with my mom and I got frog legs, so did mom. And we both like ribs also. And oh, I'm using real people's names right now. I'm so comfortable with you. Oh, okay, whatever. We're live. Um Typically I say and I've been in scenarios like but yeah, my sister made a crack at it. She's like, "Don't ever go on a date with someone and get ribs or frog legs." And I'm like, "Shoot, I get what I want."
Mhm.
But so let me ask you to that point, like is there a point where you would get comfortable enough where that wouldn't be a big deal?
Absolutely. Like I go out with people and fish is my trigger. And that's not the right word, but
I was
Like if
actually going to
they
almost say salmon to that spaghetti joke. I love salmon. Like
and
Cooper's
my wife
Razor.
does salmon. I'm not a fish person. Okay.
Okay.
So let me preface. My wife does salmon that I actually really enjoy.
Okay.
So, but if I go out to a restaurant and somebody says, "Oh, you really got to try their fish here." No, I don't. And that's where I get to see that hot water tea bag moment, because how they handle me saying no versus, well, what are you going to have? And just roll with whatever. Like, I'm not a spicy our one of our kids, our son, he can go to his friends and well, they're from the I think it's Pakistan, but anyways, over in that area. And spicy food is just kind of the norm. William is the only white friend that this other friend's grandparents can have over, because he'll eat the super spicy stuff. The sweat is pouring out of him.
Ghost
Oh, it's
peppers.
just ever good. I'm not wired that way. It's bland, it's meat and potatoes. I'm just humdrum when it comes to my meals. However, if I'm out with somebody and we get into a discussion about what I should eat, that's when that hot water tea bag stuff, the values start to leak out. How do, if you're my manager, boss, supervisor, whatever, if we're out somewhere and you take me to XYZ restaurant because you really like that food dish there, and I say, no, I'm not really that good with it, you will have one of two reactions. John saying no to me about a dish that I'm recommending, I respect him, or John saying no to me in a dish I respect is called a career limiting move.
Wow. See, and that's the stuff that's I it I think it's a good thing but also unfortunate because it's like you might not be disrespecting them. You just don't like it. You could be allergic, you're not in the mood for it. You had it for lunch. There's a million and one reasons why you don't want it.
And Mario, what you put your finger on is one of the biggest problems that happens around crisis and change. And I always group those two words together because change can be a crisis for some people.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that happens around change and crisis is we judge others' motivation or values by their behaviors instead of saying, oh, okay, well, that's fine, no big deal. Can I ask what your concern is, John, around eating fish? That's a very different discussion
Then
than
why'd you say
reacting
no?
to when I say no. And we are so, as humans, we are so good at,
Judging others?
I wasn't going to say it quite so bluntly, but yeah, pretty much.
We're all
And,
adults here.
and that's why most of us love children, because they'll ask questions, zero judgment, but they're asking questions we think.
Yeah.
We just assign. And Judith Glasser, the founder, Dr. Judith Glasser, the founder of conversational intelligence, did what she called a ladder of conclusions. And within milliseconds, we have an automatic biochemical reaction to a person. And in coaching language, we use the letter K for rapport because it's kinesthetic. It's something we feel. No, there's no rational. Then what happens is we start to feel a certain way, then we start to think a certain way, and then we form conclusions based on our thoughts and feelings. A ladder of conclusion. And it's all based on that immediate biochemical reaction of how I interpreted what I saw, heard, whatever.
How do you handle it or suggest people handle it when there could be miscommunication over it?
Not, you can delete the words could be. There will be miscommunications. And it's just because there's three components of all communication. There's my intention, there's what you heard, and then there's the interpretation lens
Yeah, it's
or
all in
mind.
between.
And hence the cliche, communication is never what is said. It's always what is heard. And how the simplest way for people to address that, including myself, is ask. So just curious, what did you just hear me say?
What did
Or
you just hear me say?
and
I
and
like that better than what did I just say?
yeah, I know,
Because that
because
seems a little defensive. What did I
well,
just
and
say?
the other thing, and I'm laughing because if you've been around teenagers, they're
Oh,
incredible
I
at.
used to be one.
Yeah, well, so did I. My kids would say 100 years ago, but I'm not that bad old. But one of the things that teenagers do is they can repeat verbatim what the person said without ever thinking about what the person said. What did I just say? And they can repeat it verbatim, what the person said. Does that mean, and I'm not sure which one's which, but one's hearing and one's listening. They heard every word but didn't listen, or they listened but didn't hear.
I gotcha.
And and by asking a person, so what did I just say, is allowing that teenager in all of us to repeat what they just said.
Yeah, it's like the difference between talking and communication. Everyone talks, but few communicate.
Well, and isn't that old song? Everybody's talking, nobody's listening. And part of what happens in crisis is any normal human being who has a pulse will have a reaction to a crisis. It's the reality of being human. But what we do is we judge people frequently by what we think their reactions are based on.
So let me ask you about crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Is there Are they all the same, or are some bigger than others, or is it just the interpretation we put on it?
Okay, I'll go with number 3 as my final answer, because the event is never the real crisis. And that's key for your listeners to hear. Please, the event is never the real crisis. For example, because you're in Detroit, you know what black ice means. Is if you and I hit black ice in your pickup truck, we
Better have a good
spin,
song on, because you're going to be going in circles for a few minutes.
and and there was an old country song that said Jesus take the wheel, but
Mm-hmm.
that's beside the point. What happens is, after you get the truck back on the road and everything's fine, you do well, that was kind of ugly. You want to grab a coffee? And I still got both hands on the holy crap rail thinking, same event, very different reactions.
That's interesting because I've actually hit freeway walls a couple times, and the second time it was after a business event. I was really focused on going to an afterwards business event to hang around the leaders even longer, and I was most upset it put me 5 minutes behind. I still went. I was like, oh, I remember facing traffic on the freeway. I'm like, crap, I missed the exit. And then I had to like get resituated. And we were going to a Buffalo Wild Wings. It's not like it was, it was
Yeah.
11, 12 at night after everything. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're wondering if you come. I'm like, yeah, I just hit the freeway wall. Do they have the Parmesan garlic still? Like, what? Yeah. And then there's other stuff that were probably no big deal whatsoever that I completely flipped out about.
Yeah. And what's happening is, if I don't know what's important, everything is, aka that busy discussion we just had. When crisis or change happens, When I don't know what's important, everything is.
How do you help
And the
people through that? Because you're now making me think of an Office clip when he's like, "There's important one, important two, and important three." It's like everything's important. How do you prioritize it?
and that's going to come back to a couple three areas, two or three areas. First of all, which is more important, the people or the productivity performance? And it's no wrong answer.
Depends who
It's
you
not.
ask. I'd say the people, but
There's your hot water tea bag stuff.
that's a no-brainer for me. But it's part of the reason I question why in business there's times I've hesitated with stuff, and it's like because I'm like maybe I need to be more cutthroat because there are people who just replace them, we'll get new ones because
Yep.
for them productivity is more important.
And there's the value statement. And that's the stuff that leaks out in hot water. And it's not, and this
But
is
which
the
one's right?
problem. What's that?
Which one's right?
And it's not. Do you remember as kids we used to do that baseball bat, the hand picking teams? Do you remember?
Yeah, I
Sort
don't.
of. And what
I do. I
values?
was usually watching the people doing it, but I never
Okay,
did
well,
it.
I was normally the player that, okay, it's your pick. You can have John. No, 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 you can have John. I was the player that neither team wanted to pick. So it bringing back a whole bunch of other issues in my life. Thank you very much for that, John. But, anyways, part of the reason I mentioned that is profit has to be on the values bat as a business. If there is no core value of profit, they are only lying to themselves.
That I agree with.
On the other hand, how we achieve profit
Right.
is a value statement. So, therefore, productivity at all costs, or the right people in the Jim Collins says, the right people in the right places for the right reasons gives us profit.
Is that in good to great?
Yes.
Okay, good. I need a thank you. That was a personal question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
I've been
love some
hearing
of the
that book
quotes.
come up like over and over and over, and I'm like, I need to revisit this.
Well, if you're like me, there's a good to great for the social sector. The premise behind it works in every area. But instead of good to great, which is built around what are you passionate about? What do you have the skills to be best at? And what earns you money, which is business, in the social sector is what drives your resource engine. So that will be money, but it'll
Right.
also be people and those other things. I use it's called a monograph, but it's the additional chapter. I use that one, good to great, for the social sector because it applies to all areas. So, what drives your resource engine? Is it people? Is it the widgets that you sell? Is it who knows, whatever else going on?
Yeah, the whole features and benefits versus value statements.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about those kinds of things, finding that ideal customer is, for example, I've fired some customers in a nice way because I'm Canadian, but fired some customers to say, yeah, you're focused on getting the widgets out the door, not how you get the widgets out the door. You have every right to do it that way, but I have every right not to be part of it. It's the saying no to fish at supper.
Yes. I've been telling people about, you know, you can do whatever you want for your business. I'm not going to put anyone's business down because I know what it takes to even get it off the ground. But we also have the right to refuse to support it.
And what's happening right now as a society is disconcerting in the really nice way because we're losing the willingness to discuss. I call it the English second language problem. What many people do to people who are not in the same language is we talk louder. And the issue is I'm not the deaf. I don't speak the English kind of response. And we talk louder. What are we doing right now in many areas of business? We say it louder rather than
Is it
okay.
any more correct though?
No, it's not. It's worse because what saying it louder does is puts the brain in fear mode, which is protect mode, which means I'm no longer listening and hearing what you just said.
It's just about me and getting my message out, and I'm just gonna.
Yep. So we're not having conversations. We're having, I was never a good English major, but in Shakespeare, they had one actor that would go on forever, but there was called something when that actor would recite a paragraph. It felt like a novel, but
Like Mercutio and Romeo and Juliet with Queen Mab.
see, you just spoke more about Romeo. I got Romeo and Juliet, the rest of the
He
story.
does the presentation. Oh, the monologue.
Yes, and
Is
there's
that
a
what you're referring
fancy,
to?
yes, monologue. And there's another term that's used in English, soliloquy, or something
Yes.
like that. And what's happening is the more monologues we have, the more people can hear our monologue, but we're not gaining buy-in, we're not growing traction, we're not growing credibility, we're not growing influence.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm thinking of specific scenarios right now. So, how do you advise if people are doing more monologue stuff? Do you advise that they do more interviews like this or roundtables, webinars, in person stuff if that's the type of business they're in?
All of the above. But the
Just
other
have more
thing that I've
discussion?
learned is it was from a salesperson. And I'll never forget, he said, don't ever forget, John, the best salespeople in the world ask the most questions.
Love that.
And you want to move it from a monologue, soliloquy to interaction.
With
And
hyperbole.
yeah,
Okay. So, I got to ask about the title of your book, Run Towards the Roar. Why do you think most people run away from it?
human instinct, all of us fight, flight, freeze, appease. It's welcome to the normal human species.
So how do people like firefighters, military, all the great people serving us, how do you they get past the trigger and
Well, that's actually part of their training. And one of the things that they do, Mario, which is they call muscle memory.
okay.
And they train so that when things go amok, whatever that means, they do not think and react like a normal human being. They respond according to their training.
Okay.
And for you and I, we have to take those principles in our own journeys to say, okay, what am I training for every single day? So that when these blips happen along the radar, we are able to say, you know what? I'm not going to react, fight, flight, freeze, appease, and run away from the roar. I am going to press on and run toward the roar.
Do you have any stats on how many people can actually pull that off and do it effectively, I should say?
Oh, well, I think of not specific stats, no, but anecdotally, yes. I mean, a perfect example of this. Let me describe to you a situation. I'm not getting into the ethics or politics or any of the other stuff, but
Darn.
take a stand-up actor. I don't know what kind of acting that he did, but take that kind of persona, and say, okay, well, we want you to be a leader in our community. Never mind that. We want you to be our leader in a country. And so he drinks the Kool-Aid. He decides he's going to be an actor. He's going to be an actor. He's going to be a political leader kind of person in their community. And then all of a sudden, things start going south in the country. And now everybody's upset. There's explosion, attacks, all kinds of stuff. They've got food shortages, they've got power shortages. Run toward the roar, paint a blue ribbon and a yellow ribbon, and you have Zelensky, who started out as an actor or comedian. I can't remember what he started as, the president of Ukraine.
Okay.
The woman that was prime minister of New Zealand when COVID started. What did she do? She sat down with people via video and said, this is impacting me and my son, not just you. But we are not going to tap dance around it. We are going to come at it hard. They have a political system in New Zealand that's designed so that no one party can sweep all the seats. The way it was designed was it would always be governed by two parties. Her first term and COVID, she was elected with one party ruling.
How?
That's how her influence of being the kind of person that she is worked. Because people just were drawn to her. She was genuine.
So she was
She
doing
was
it for all the right reasons.
doing it for all the right reasons. There's your hot water tea bag moment.
So would you say this is more rooted in ethics and value, or well, I guess that would be the type of person. I was going to say personality, because I know personality plays a factor in all these traits, but yeah, what I'm hearing is it's really more the value and ethics statement, because you can be outgoing, gregarious, or introverted and have the right values, and both of them I would still say is the right person versus, vice versa. And it's all about the other person. I hear
Yeah.
stuff all the time, leaders who are more concerned about themselves than the people they're in charge to protect.
Well, a perfect example
Personally
is
or professionally. It could be a city, state, country, whatever, but in our instance, could be the business. So and so gets promoted to CEO or manager, whatever the case is. They might be qualified, they might not. They might be for you, they might not.
well, and that's why when I talk about leadership for this kind of thing, I actually get people thinking about, yes, you got to have competence. There's no question. Credibility, no question. But it's the other things: character, courage. And I love the old English word for composure, countenance. And we have to have those other qualities, not just do I have the right credibility or competence skills.
What are three things you think anyone could do to gain more of that self awareness, be the right type of person, and become who we're talking about?
First thing is really simple. Look at your day timer and look at your bank statement. Where are you spending your most time and your most money? Because that's what you're telling people are your real values. The next thing to do is look at what comes after your name. So when you take a course, when you take a program, when you do anything, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why is this important for me? And then the third piece is, most of us won't be there, but at the funeral, what do we want people to say about us?
Yeah, that's a very sobering thought.
There's a culture, and you want to talk about unnerving. I don't know if I would have the credibility to do it, But there's a culture that as the person is nearing the end, they have the funeral while the person is alive so that they can hear what others are saying.
I've heard of, I didn't know it was a culture thing. I've heard of people doing it. Just,
Okay.
I think a couple times in real life, like they did it. And then other ones, I've had discussions with people like, why don't we do that more?
Yep.
You know,
And isn't that a powerful question, Mario? Why do we wait to give a eulogy about a person when they're dead? Why don't we catch them and just say, you know, one of the things that I really find annoying about you, but I absolutely love, and just put it on the table?
I've often thought about why do we wait like an entire lifetime also? Why not
Yeah.
once a year reevaluate? You
No.
know, because I think some people think I'll do this between now and 5 and 10 years from now, and that'll be the end point when really there's no guarantee we get next year. So, what are you doing this year if this
Yeah.
was the last year of your life? What are you doing right now that if you were to, if this was it, would you be happy with the direction you're going and who you are?
We used to do something at our supper table, and we would sit down, and we have three kids, but the five of us would sit down, and one night a week was one person. So we would all pick on that one person and say, you know, what I admire the most about you, what I love the most about you, which you contribute the most to you, the family, which you can contribute the most to people around you. And for one meal, it would all be about that one person. And we would do that once a week. So every 5 weeks, it would repeat. And I remember one of our kids having a company over, a guest over for supper. And their question was, can we do that special thing, but do it on this person?
Ooh,
And I got a phone call from the dad the next day to say, what the hang did you do to my kid? I'm thinking, oh, great. What did we do now? And the dad's comment was, he came home and he said, I want to do what the Robertsons do. That was really cool.
yeah, that's like 11 birthdays a year.
And guess what we could do in the workplace, Mario?
Same thing.
Exact same
Monthly,
thing.
quarterly, whatever, weekly.
Yep. And to be blunt, it's going to make people super uncomfortable.
Why? So, why do people. This has always perplexed me too. Why, like with the fish, why do so many people apologize or get uncomfortable when people say nice stuff about them? Or apologize for speaking their truth or what they want, you know?
Somewhere along the lines, part of me wonders, part of it is a negative bias. It's easier to believe the negative than it is to believe the positive.
But
But
why?
somewhere along the lines that we have bought into thinking that being self confident and having pride is being arrogant and being proud.
Let's break that down. How would you say self confident isn't pride?
When I am clear on my values, my you were talking about personality, when you're talking about passion or life lessons, whatever, and I'm able to say, you know what, I'm actually really good at this. I got this. That's pride. That's self-esteem. That's self-confidence. If I say, well, yeah, I can do that, Mario. Yeah, well, I can do that. Now we've crossed the line.
Do you think it has anything to do with that? It's not bragging if you can back it up.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, so it's when you can actually do it and you're talking about it confidently.
Yep. Like I don't know if you've ever seen the show MacGyver,
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
I'm an incredible MacGyver, and I had to fix a shed door at our cottage. And our son-in-law came up, and his words, because he's a planned, processed, done right kind of personality, and he looked at the thing and he says, "Yeah, this has John written all over it," and everybody laughed.
But you're probably not going to take a month to get it done either.
Yeah, yeah, no, true enough, true enough.
It's not so much as I see the benefit in both. I can do both. If it
Well,
needs to
and
be precise and accurate, like when we're publishing books, absolutely. But my natural state is like, we're not going to spend 2 years on most things. We don't even spend 2 years to do people's books. And I see some people with a normal, let's say a social media post, they like craft it for a month and a half. It's like you're about 1,048 behind the frequency. You know,
yeah,
you got
yeah.
to choose your battles.
And if I don't know what's important, I'm going to try and do it perfect.
Hmm.
And perfect isn't an option. Just
And
give me a
remember, there's
second.
one thing.
Sorry, I just realized that the sun is set and some of the
Oh,
natural
you're fine.
lighting was gone on me. So,
There was this thing in econ in college.
yeah.
It drove me nuts because it said 94% is 100% capacity. And I'm like, it's not though. But I
Mhm.
guess it's just the economic standard of if you're operating above 90%, 92, 94, no one's, they realize it's a physical impossibility to be running at 100% capacity 24/7.
Well, and just to show you, to illustrate this verbatim discussion, I can have this battle in my mind right now about lighting. Okay, John, are you casting a shadow on the side of your face? Do you need to rotate properly and head to the light? Or do you focus on the content? And if people get all bent out of shape about the lighting, John, just don't worry. Like, that's that battleground,
Okay.
Mario, where excellence and all those other things, because a lot of times, most humans, we cross the line trying to do something with excellence, but we're thinking perfectly.
Too high
Well,
of a bar, huh?
well, it's not achievable.
What if you try really hard though?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, your wiring just leaked out in that moment, buddy. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's awful close to perfect. Well, now we're going to have a conversation about what perfect means, because that's most important.
Yeah. I'm thinking of another TV show about scientists. They're really trying to do nice stuff and create this thing to help people and all that. And they're like 5 years behind on it. And I think it was the show Scorpion. Actually, real good show, by the way. But they were
Wasn't that a
trying.
great show? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, have you seen all of them?
No, not all of them.
Okay. There's the one where there's this electricity and a scientist and flying craft. I don't know which one it was, but they were trying to figure something out. And the guy, the scientist, he really was just so focused. He's like, we're so close in this, that, the other thing. But the reality is they were so far behind and nowhere's near getting the thing. But the whole time they had to, I don't know if I'm spoiling it if you see it, but the thing is, the scientist was always going in his mind. We are so close. We're only 2 weeks away. We're only a
Yeah.
month away. But to everyone else, it's like they. He goes. Once we realized this is how he was thinking, we realized it wasn't intentional. This didn't. He wasn't doing anything malicious. It was just simply we're
Yeah.
testing.
Yeah.
And I think there's people, and yeah, for sure, at times in the past I've been like, we're almost there, that it's like there's something I actually did yesterday that I'm like, nope, nope, we're moving forward. I don't even care, and no one's gonna see it.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
kind of refreshing because it's like you could, I could conservatively say at least 2 to 3 to 4 to 6 extra weeks it would take to fix the thing. No one did notice already, and no one will notice.
And that's that negative bias that humans have, because I know who your worst critic is, you know who mine is. and and what happens is we have to, and it's a fascinating thing, because the human mind cannot retain positive thinking at the exact same time as we hold on to negative thinking.
Oh, I like that.
And so what is it? I heard a great line. I'm just trying to. Discouragement is a choice. Encouragement is a choice. Positivity, and I'm not talking Pollyanna and rose-colored glasses. I'm talking about, you know what? We will get through this. It sucks, but we'll get through it. Positivity. Negativity is, Chicken Little and oh, the sky's falling and oh, and worst case scenario.
Always, constantly, every situation, even after you've won an award.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
That goes back to that quote I was telling you about, for people looking to get on the show here. It's not that I don't like you. Oh, it's not that you're not qualified. It's just that I don't like you.
And part of and the way I illustrate this for our own well-being is, do you remember, I'm not commenting on your age, I'm commenting on your life lesson. Did you ever have one of those vehicles that had the dome light that if you left it on, you got the click, click, click in the morning?
Yeah, the whole battery was toast.
Okay. Don't ever call them this, but relationships are dome lights. Some drain the battery, and some we love, they will drain the battery, but it's not a negative drain. It's a part of caring. But they're dome lights. And if we don't keep a charge in our batteries, those negative dome lights will drain the battery, so we don't even have enough charge for the positive relationships.
And that's the real travesty.
And that's the only thing that matters. And I mean, without getting into names, but I can guarantee you on your cell phone, you will have that number come up on your screen, and you will have one of two biological reactions. John, I got to take this, or not them. Dome lights.
So I don't know if I should make the reference to energy vampires if we're not going to call them dome lights, or make the crack about where would be a good restaurant to take your dome light for Valentine's.
I just no. I think you've started people down a trail. We'll let them finish that journey on their own.
You're very diplomatic. That is good.
Well, and absolutely, emotional vampires is a great way to visualize because they feed off of us.
Yeah, there's people that I know are sometimes embellishing the truth, or it's more that Chicken Little syndrome. And then there's this whole other class of, like, literally, you just got to raise an award and all kinds of stuff. And you're still just, it's like there's literally nothing to be other than, I can't even wrap my head around other than joy celebration.
Mhm.
And it's still like, just like, what is wrong with you?
Actually, and I don't want to offend any Christians. I'm a Christian, but I don't want to offend any on this show. But we're living in a time right now. One of the stories that's told is Jesus walked on the water to the
Mm-hmm.
disciples. But today, there will be people saying, "What's the matter, Jesus? You can't swim?"
That's true.
And
I'm very much Christian also, so say whatever you want. But yeah, you're right, because go ahead.
and and one of the things that we have to do is we have to start saying, okay, what's inside? Do we take our time away to recharge, not unplug? Unplugging is the same effectiveness as thinking putting your cell phone on airplane mode is going to recharge it. When we disconnect from work, what are we plugged into? What are we going to charge?
Oh,
What
so it's not that you unplug; it's you plug into something better to recharge.
Because that way the dome lights that need our battery full get it. And we therefore buffer the dome lights, the vampire dome lights that drain the battery.
Yeah. I actually can say I'm happy there's not a ton of people who call now, and it's like it's one reason I've encouraged people for decades. Start your own business. At least you have the say of, well, I don't like my boss, I don't like my job, I don't.
Yeah.
You get control over that. But what that's why it's so curious to me, people who take on clientele or customers, clients, whatever, or even entertaining prospects. And they'll go to 10 meetings a week in real life, drive around, leave their wife, husband, family, kids, do all this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, all these people I got to deal with." I'm like, "You decided to take the appointment.
Yeah.
This isn't on anyone but you. Your boss didn't force you to." That's a whole other, I'm so glad we're talking about this because I've said stuff here and there. You have
Mhm.
the expertise in this area, but I don't know, observant, and I've noticed stuff, but it's just like, why? I love what you were saying about, tell someone no without giving them a reason. Hey,
Okay.
can you
And
come to that thing Friday? No.
there's four types of no. Okay. And we gotta be honest. No is without explanation. No with an alternative.
Okay.
No, I can't help you tonight, but I can come on Saturday. There's no with an explanation. Like, no, I have a seafood allergy. I'm not eating fish. And I sounded really wise when I started with four no's, but the fourth one is gone at the moment right now. So
It'll come
it's
back. You
gonna,
got it.
but there's
I
anyways,
was
there,
smirking because of I know people that go, no.
yeah.
The
Well, that's
question
really
mark no.
convincing. Yeah. But Mario, you made a comment that's really key for listeners to hear, please. When we are starting our business, that is not the time to worry about all these dome lights or these vampires. Yes, track them, monitor them. Don't let them be your sole focus for client base.
Have some
However,
garlic around.
yeah, right, yeah. And I'm trying to not do a squirrel moment right now, but one of the things that we have to do when we're starting a business is, yeah, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. But then be very, very strategic and tactical when we are done working with that client. What qualities, attributes did we like? What qualities, attributes did we not like? And what that does is helps us focus on the kind of client we want to work with.
Absolutely. One thing I implemented, geez, it's hard to believe. I don't want to give away my age, but or date myself here, but it was over a decade ago. I came up with once a year look back. You do all this stuff for New Year's, and I'm not talking resolutions like I'm gonna blah, blah, but literally just take your whole inventory of clients and go, who was your best, who was your worst, and where's the threshold of I don't ever want to work with this type of person again because of these situations.
And to your comment, and this is key for your listeners, don't ever put a name to it. It's the type of client.
Yes.
It's not the name. It doesn't matter the package that quality comes in. What matters is the quality.
Yeah. And you said it earlier on, and I loved it because absolutely, when you make that decision, and then 4 weeks later, you get 6 out of 7 people going, "Here's a lot of money.
Yeah, but there's a
Here's
term for
stuff to start the
people.
new year," and you go, "Huh, I can only take one of you.
Well,
However,
and
I
there's a
know in 6 months
term,
from now, I'll be a lot happier."
and there's a term for people who work for money, isn't there?
Ooh, tell me this. Uh,
It's called Pretty Woman. Richard Gere
oh,
hired.
I thought that's what you were getting at.
Well, and at the end of the day, if I only want to work for money, then yeah, some of my behaviors are going to reflect that value because I will do anything for money.
Yeah. And I remember distinct thing. Yeah, it was at least a decade ago, but it was just like
So
every
when you were
single
12 or 13,
appreciate that. But it was, ever since then, it's like, okay, now it didn't take long to build it up because we're always getting people coming to us. But at the same time, it was like, I've never told people like really no before because I really do sincerely want to help everyone. But especially with, like I said, when I launched the show, I'm like, it's not that you're not qualified. I just don't like you. And,
Yeah.
you can't ever get your time back, regardless if you make 100 an hour, a 10 an hour, a million an hour.
Yeah.
You can't get your time back. So,
And that theme is exactly the crisis moment. Because what happens in a crisis is we realize a hot water tea bag, we realize, what have I been spending my time and money doing?
yeah. And sometimes you might think it was something good, and other times you might realize maybe I don't need to be doing everything for everyone that I was because this much is moving the needle
And
and keeping my
there,
sanity.
and there's a great principle for people and part of the how I love to help people is to be part of what I call a huddle. It's a values anchored huddle, so the rest of the world sees our bums, but we're in the huddle talking about the play that we're going to run. And each business person needs three people in their life: somebody more mature who invests in us, somebody less mature that we are investing in, because that's the easiest way to learn something is teach it.
Mm-hmm.
And the third person is somebody who cares, but is an observer. They're the ones that are able to say, John, people think your business is wonderful. John, people love what you do, John, but I'm just here to tell you that right now, what I'm seeing with you and your wife is not great. Am I missing something?
Mm.
And that observer, that Barnabas is the character, but that Barnabas type person that just says, I'm not trying to help you grow your business. I'm not trying to be helped by you growing my business.
I
I'm
just see
just
what's
an
going on.
observer. Yeah.
It's a great analogy.
And when we are intentional with those three people in our lives, so huddle of four, what happens is minimum four. What happens is I am learning stuff because I'm teaching it. I'm learning stuff because I have somebody investing in my success. And I have somebody who cares enough to share what they are observing without being one of those dome light experts up in the stands when I feel like I'm drowning and they're shouting, swim harder, swim harder. Thanks. I wouldn't have thought of that.
No, Pastor was talking about that too. Like, it's actually insensitive in certain scenarios to, like you said, they're up in the stands, swim harder. Like,
Well, and I think it was a president. I can't remember who it was, so I'm not going to say, but the battle belongs to those who are in the arena.
oh,
Filled, you know that quote?
marred with the dust on their face.
Yes. And with blood and sweat and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And part of being in business is
Roosevelt, the man in the arena.
the man in the arena and Roosevelt, okay. and and part of being the person in the arena is that business, that entrepreneur, business owner. Because if we're thinking we're going to be in the stands and be whatever, not happening for 90% of us. It won't work that way.
Okay, I got one more question before we go to the wheel of whatever, but I'm really enjoying this, and I know we could talk for hours on it. At what point, and what's the ratio? What's the time? Because it's got to be perfect. Only never. You can't be in the arena the whole time. You need that. What's that word that I learned from my nurse? Respite. Nurse
Mhm.
clients, I should say, not my nurse. Nurse respite.
Right.
Um, you can't be in the arena 24/7 your whole life. At some point, you have to take a breather and then go back in. How do you handle that? And
Simple.
I'm not saying the nosebleed seats either, like you're completely removed, just aloof, but I'm just saying you can't fight your whole life 24/7.
Simple. Look at the two words that people use all the time: recreation.
Mm.
Where does it come from? Recreation.
What? What? I love looking up etymology, and no one's told me that.
Now, I don't
Recreation.
know if it's true, but it's a Johnism.
It
But
works, and it works enough for me.
and so therefore, what am I doing to recreate? And so the REST is the acronym I teach this from, is recreation, envision. What are some things that I want to work on for me? Sleep. And if I'm not sleeping, what are the things that I do that allows my body to literally veg? And T is thanks. One of the biggest struggles that most of us have is listing out things that we are thankful for. I'm not talking in the head. I'm talking about writing them down, journaling, whatever you want me to call that. But, name 10 things you are thankful for today, John, and write them down. So rest is one, recreation, and vision, sleep, and thanks. The other one is sabbatical. And it comes from the Jewish Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, one day a week is a day of rest. Right now, and I'm not getting into Sunday shopping, that ship has sailed. But when we talk about a day of rest, think about that very acronym and a Sabbath. What's my one day of recreation and vision, sleep, and thanks?
What if the recreation for someone is I like pulling weeds and flowers and this and that, and it's would you consider that work, or is in that scenario their recreation?
Oh, no, that's recreation. For others like me, that's work.
So it
But
depends on the person.
and this goes right back to what you were talking about with personalities. I know people, my kids harass me all the time about my lawn, and it's just because I take pride in it. I do. I use fertilizer and weed spray and so forth. I don't get down on my hands and knees and pull weeds. I'm not there yet. But I
You can still
find,
take pride in it and not do it. I think weed pulling is an absolute waste of life for anyone. Even if you like planting flowers is not pulling weeds. Like,
and so therefore, weeds. I know people who enjoy jigsaw puzzles. I know people who enjoy reading a novel that has no bearing on anything in life. It's just very therapeutic.
okay, cooking, painting,
Cooking.
music.
And serving others. I know that the that people talk about you need to volunteer because it brings life into perspective. But human beings are, it's called altruism, but humans are naturally wired that when we serve others that they can't pay me back, we actually feel better. And I'm not talking about, like, I hate public speaking. I'm not talking about taking a public speaking course. But on the other hand, I know a woman friend of ours. She used to volunteer at a homeless shelter. She had her own business. She and her husband had their own business. She volunteered at a homeless shelter and cleaned and treated and washed homeless people's feet. Trench foot, I think, was the term that she used. But anyways, it's she loved it. She said, there is nothing they can do. They cannot buy from our business. I am doing it because I have been so blessed that I'm paying somebody back with things that I don't even think about. Clean socks, healthy feet.
Yeah. It rounds out the individual.
And part of the motive that all three of our kids did missions trips is we wanted our kids to understand that where we live is not the real world. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's new Android or Apple ABCD phone. In many parts of the world, they don't even have a phone.
Yeah.
And it reframes what is normal and what are we stressed about and what are we concerned about.
Do you
And
think there's an optimal time, like an age to be doing that and at that certain age frequency?
no, the only time it's like who was it, Gautama, somebody, anyone said there's two times to plant a tree, one is 20 years ago and the other is
And one's
today.
today.
That's the best way, because what happens, and this is why I love focusing on helping those leaders lead, because if we don't keep a charge in our battery, we will not be able to finish well. So we might have the perfect product for people, whatever it is, the perfect service for people. And yes, I used your word there, not excellent product or excellent service, but perfect. But if we don't have enough charge in our battery, we may not be able to do the very thing that they need us to do.
Yeah, it's not. I've told people for a while, it's not just about getting to the finish line. It's about the journey. And if you're running on steam the last 50%, that's not fun. It's not fun the last 5% or 10%.
No.
You better be able to do it though. I'll say that because it's never going to be perfect, and you're probably
No.
going to have to at some point. But yeah, there's times when you go from A to Z, and it's like that was awesome,
Yep.
mostly. And there's other times it's like, okay, we're still alive. It's break time. We'll take the win. But it was what's the word I'm thinking of? I think it's Pyrrhic victory.
Okay.
I think it's like when you won but you lost the whole army or something. It's like,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
we won, but there's one out of 1,000 guys left. Like,
Yep.
wouldn't really call that a win, but
Well, and to your comment, right? Like there's the other times when we are willing to lose the battle so that we win the war.
mm-hmm.
And part of that is what we need to do in business and in families. If I win this battle, what do I win? If I'm willing to lose this battle, what can I win? That long range game plan in mind.
If I win this battle, did I really win?
Yep.
I was equating that to the whole. I heard in business years ago, would you rather be rich or would you rather be right?
Well, and I illustrate it as two ladders that people climb the ladder of success and the ladder of significance.
Hmm.
Sometimes success gives us significance, but significance always gives us success.
I like that a lot. Yeah, very very deep, very great, very everything. Now I get to ask you the wheel of whatever before we come back for the imperfect action round. Yellow or black?
Oh, absolutely yellow.
Oh, how come?
Because and I illustrate this with the battery. Traffic lights. Red means stop, means our battery's dead. Green means we're good to go. Yellow is where we have the problems. Because under the yellow light, some people slow down, some people speed
Speed
up.
up. What if it's orange?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So my question for you is, you saw it right there, right? Because you picked yellow. There's the question.
Mhm.
What is something you were holding back on saying that, now I can give you carte blanche to say? Because there's been a couple times you're like, I don't want to say this or that. Is there anything you do want to say and you don't need to worry about me getting
No,
in on it?
honestly, Mario, the only thing that I would want people to walk away from this time with is please take the time to discover that there is a plan for living value for your life. There is a values plan. There is values that you have to define what you are for. There's a passion, there's life lessons, there's ability, and there's nature, what I call personality, because our life lessons influence our nature. And when we discover a plan for our lives, we discover a purpose, a hope.
I like that. Everything you've been saying is great, and that's why I'm excited that I get to bring you back up in a couple of seconds after we thank our sponsor for the imperfect action round. Every business needs a book, including yours. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. And we are back with the imperfect action round. John, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Absolutely.
3 questions for you, rapid fire answers. What is the fastest path to the cash?
Be clear on what you're for. Don't worry about what you don't like or against.
Excellent. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
It resonates with that first one. First of all, the trying to be all things to all people means you're going to please none. Mm-hmm. Therefore, be really clear on what's the issue that I can help that person, organization with. Basically, the acronym is WIFT. What's in it for them?
Right. Absolutely. Number 3, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Ask them feedback. So when we met, anything I did well, anything that you think I can improve on, would you allow me to follow up with you?
Wow. It's good format. I'm going to actually borrow that. Like right now, I literally last night said on social, we're going to play the flaw game tomorrow. Because I want people that, I've got 5,000 people plus on the networks, and I'm like, what can I improve?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I like that. And can I follow up with you? Because now it's not just some random thing. You can actually have a deeper conversation.
Yep.
All right. Being a publisher, and a author, I have to ask about books. We've mentioned a few of them. What business books have helped your business? What business? I shouldn't say that. Nope. Redo. What books have helped your life?
So there's a couple by John Maxwell. One is There's No Such Thing as Business Ethics. There's another one by Gus Lee, Courage. I think it's Courage, semicolon, the backbone of leadership. And then we talked about the other one was Good to Great.
Excellent. Thank you for those. I thought you were going to mention the Bible too.
Well, yeah.
That's why I corrected myself, because I used to ask what business books, and I'm like, no, I'm going to let people do whatever they want. And
because you mentioned it, one of the things that I steal, and it's part of where my questions come from, is Jesus never went to a person. Think about a business person, okay? Because Jesus was not a philosopher, he was a carpenter. And somewhere along the lines, we made him a philosopher. And his first question was with every client was, what do you want me to do for you? One of my favorite sarcastic stories is, the guy lying beside the pool, been lying there for 30 years on a mat, first went into the water when the angel stirs the water. Superstition, but it was what they believed. And the guy, so Jesus comes up to the guy and says, so what do you want me to do for you? I mean, can you imagine the sarcasm? I don't know, moron. I've been lying here for 30 years. What do you think? But what happens is If people do not want our help, don't try and convince them
Mm,
they need it. Because if that guy got off as Matt, he would actually have to start working, getting his own meals. It'd be a whole change of life. So when we are working with customers, please don't ever tell a customer what they need. Ask the questions. What do you want me to do for you?
two ears and one mouth. I love that a lot. Everything you've been sharing is gold. I wish we had more time, but where would you like people to learn more?
So two options is email me directly. I'm old fashioned that way. Just john at fortlog.co.co. Fort, safe place in the frontier. Log is a journal to sail the seas because there's no point going there alone. And co is a colleague, collaborator, coach. I work with people, co, not com. And so John at fortlog.co, or just simply go to the website, fortlog.co, and book a time and let's have that conversation.
Excellent. Well, thank you for everything you've shared. I've enjoyed it, and I'm glad we.
Mario, I got it. I'm being rude right now. My mom's voice is echoing in my head, but I really want to thank you for the spirit that you interview by, because you're not, I know you probably have a script in the back of your mind or on a separate monitor, but you allow the conversation to unfold. And that genuineness and authenticity is a phenomenal quality in your role. And I've been very blessed by being your guest. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. It means a lot. And there was a script. I've had people. It's been 2 years since I've looked at it honestly, and it's always curious to me when people email me beforehand. They're like, "What about question 7?" I'm like, oh, "What's question 7?"
Hmm.
There's a loose format, yeah, with the wheel of whatever and stuff, but I appreciate that because I really do want to bring out the best and just have it
Yep.
natural and everything. And some people, I give them all the space in the world, and they like to keep it, because that's where they're comfortable, and so be it. So I want to thank you for going down some of the rabbit holes with me, and willing to
Not
go
at all.
deeper because I know the person listening to this right now is getting more out of it. So thank you. But it really was a great
That's
episode, and I thank you for your time.
my pleasure. And I thank you.
All right, Expert Authority World, we clearly have another great episode here today. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.